Good morning, everyone. My name is Anissa Barton Thompson, and I'm the social media specialist for the College of Extended and International Education here at California State University, Dominguez Hills. Welcome. I'll be your host for today. Feel free to download the Social Media Strategies and Content Marketing Program Information Kit for details about the program and additional resources covered in this webinar. The address is bit.ly/CSUDH-JMX-info kit. Now, with that being said, let's take a quick look at our session's agenda. We'll begin by meeting our certificate faculty, who will introduce you to the program via an overview of benefits, expectations, and course details. And now to kick off today's presentation, I'll turn it over to Mrs. Catherine Clinch, our instructor for the program. Catherine, take it away.
What if everything you thought you knew about social media was wrong? In social media, we have the swag, the stuff we all know. How to connect with friends and have fun, how to buy a t-shirt, how to show us what you had on your avocado toast today, and how to get a date. And then there's the stuff we all want to know, like how to use social media to build a business, how to sell your product or your service, or how to become an influencer or a thought leader. This class is designed to help you do that for fun and profit. Do you know how to make people fall in love with what you do? This is the ultimate goal of everything in social media. I am liked, therefore I am. Now you have the 3-second rule, which is a theory that says you only get 3 seconds to capture the interest and make them fall in love with your social media content. So think about how fast you scroll through your phone or your online site when you're just looking for something that'll interest you. It has nothing to do with the 5-second rule, by the way, which says you can't eat anything off the floor. You can eat anything off the floor, but you shouldn't eat anything off the floor. The new version is the 40 nanosecond rule, which is a revised theory that says you only get 40 nanoseconds to capture their interest and make them fall in love with you and your product or service through amazing content. Now, this is from the latest studies done by the ad industry, and it demonstrates that our rate of perception has improved. We've been in training ever since the dawn of social media when we started endlessly scrolling through the feeds. We have improved our perception, and it doesn't take us 3 seconds. We make that decision faster than the snap of your finger. Now, a nanosecond is 1 billionth of a second, or a very short time, a moment. 40 billionths of a nanosecond. If the advertising industry is operating under these guidelines, you need to do it too. But they're worried about how they can do it, so how are you possibly going to get started and overcome this insurmountable challenge? It all starts with content. Nobody falls in love with a line of code. Facebook is nothing without emotionally engaging content. It was built on the hormonal drives of frat boys at an Ivy League school. Content is the secret sauce. That's what this class is about. It's how to understand it, how to design it, how to create it, how to measure the engagement it generates. Now, this Venn diagram displays the perfect trifecta of what it is to create content that your target audience is going to fall in love with. The star in the middle is your sweet spot. I created this image to look like bubbles as a reminder that any one of these can burst at any time and your content completely misses the mark. I'm Catherine Clinch. Let me tell you who I am and why I created and teach this class. This is my origin story. I started out as a television writer with some very, very successful television series. All of these are still actually running on television right now. I have an episode of my Knight Rider on my DVR. And not a year has gone by without my receiving residuals on each of these, so I know for a fact where they're playing around the world at any given point in time. These series touch some emotional element of the personal story of the audience. And that's why decades later, and I mean 3, almost 4 decades later, they're still viable as entertainment content worth watching. After that, I became associate publisher of a magazine and co-coordinated a huge conference that grew 5,000 people over 4 days in 3 of the biggest hotels in Los Angeles. I've been immersed in content and story for decades. I love content in all its form. I am constantly thinking about story, so that has a value that adds to what I'm teaching. After that, I invented a mobile content platform and was awarded 3 full utility US patents. We're going to go into beta later this spring. The app is being built right now. My entire life has been an immersion in storytelling. Now, when I started, this was the state-of-the-art technology. I managed to write a few really good scripts without spell check or autosave. And then one day I discovered the App Store. And more than 400 apps later, well, I digress. Everyone has a story. If you're able to tap into the emotions of someone's personal story, they will willingly listen to your story. So that's the key. And that's where we start. What's your story? You have to begin by defining your own story, because if you can't understand your story, you can't understand anybody else's. Strategy, a plan of action designed to achieve a particular goal. This is the most crucial factor in making social media work for your business. You'll learn how to define your goal, define who you want to reach, understand why they'll care, and then have a call to action that enables them to do what you're asking them to do. Defining your individual goal is a crucial step. You can't hit a target if you don't know where it is or what it looks like. But when you come into my class, the first thing I want you to know is what you want to accomplish in my class. If you haven't figured it out yet, we'll work together to do that. I've been teaching this class for a long time, and I've gone through that process with a lot of students. We'll define your big goals and your small goals. And we're going to create a plan on how to reach them, along with a strategy on how to effectively implement your plan. The next thing we do is define who your target audience is. Now, this cheesy clip art, which I just have an affinity for this style, makes it seem a lot easier than it is, but it's not rocket science. There's a process. There's a series of steps, and I'll walk you through it. And once you understand that, you'll see that it is very doable. Sometimes your target audience is global. That's a bit more of a challenge, but when you figure out where you want to reach, we'll figure out what platforms you need to be working on. Does anyone out there recognize who this woman is? Teresa Schrock. She really shook our society at one point. She's the Women's March on Washington. Began with one simple message from this grandma in Hawaii. She said on the day after the 2017 inauguration, "I am so distraught, I don't know what to do. I'm going to go to Washington and I'm going to march up and down in front of the White House. Does anybody want to come with me?" One Facebook resulted in 1 million women, none of whom rushed on a Capitol and broke windows. But that's the power of social media. It's the secret to success was there was a lot of strategy in between the message and the turnout. There were allies who came on board to help and support her. She had never met them. They had never met her. They didn't know who she was. But she struck that emotional tone and made them say, yeah, I want to go. Friends of mine went. So that's what you're going to learn how to do. A few years before that, in 2013, Alicia Garza, Patrice Cullors, and Opal Tometi created a Black-centered political will and movement-building project called #Black Lives Matter. It was in response to the acquittal of Trayvon Martin's murderer, George Zimmerman. After a slow but consistent build and the right timing, the movement exploded onto the cultural zeitgeist. Suddenly, street murals were being painted on actual streets all around the country. Black Lives Matter. They were painted in strategic locations where they were likely to get the most attention and make the biggest visible impact, like on the street leading up to the White House. And then, just months later, this happened. This is social media too. Militia members from all over the country traveled to Washington, D.C. to contest the lawful election of President Joe Biden. They stormed the Capitol. Once inside, they fought with the police and guards who were charged with protecting the members of Congress. 5 people died. Dozens more were injured. This self-proclaimed shaman was definitely swept up in the field of cosplay. And look how everybody's milling around the lobby. See them chatting in the back, checking their phone, wearing name tags from work, taking pictures. They picked up souvenirs and took the mandatory tourist photos. All of that for their social media pages. They carried signs and flags and banners and a hangman's noose. They wore hoodies with ironic statements. And of course, everybody wore the hat. Slogans, symbols, merch, and hashtags. They used all the tools of social media influencers. And here's how FBI is trying to find them. They posted these pictures on social media and they tagged themselves in them proudly. Their defense? Well, President Trump invited us to come here. Where did he send that invitation? On social media. And that leads us to FOMO, the fear of missing out. If that's effectively triggered and you weren't there, well, dude, you totally missed the best party ever. But just 2 weeks later, this happened. And now we have a president inaugurated, and unity is the path forward. America got a happy ending. We know that because social media told us it was so. Within minutes of the end of the inauguration ceremony, everybody started to play in social media at the expense of a certain beloved senator. The Bernie Sanders meme proves the internet is resetting, and that was a good thing. Senator Bernie Sanders attended this outdoor event in the middle of January, dressed like a sensible resident of Vermont. He had the warm overcoat, the mittens. He was holding his arms close in to expand on the body warmth. And someone saw an opportunity. Before long, Bernie found his way onto some of our favorite sofas. Forrest Gump's bench, the Friends sofa, and of course, the beloved Simpsons let him in. He got a little edgy and hung out with some high-risk fellows after that. Stopped by to visit a former colleague, and ultimately became immortalized as Lego merch. Every time the sun rises or the sun sets, the world changes. Those daily changes happen everywhere across the globe. And if you want to be successful, if you want to make social media work for you, you have to learn to adapt to make those daily changes work for you. That's what this class is about. Which brings us to this. What can you do in 48 hours? I mean, it's the cumulative amount of time in a weekend. And there's also a 1980s action movie that managed to get a lot of action into 48 hours. Or you could earn a certificate from a university that's going to change your life. Let's take a look at the classes. JMX901, Introduction to Convergence Media Marketing and Advertising. Build a framework for a media campaign through a social emotional analysis of user demographics, psychographics on media platforms. Focus on tools and techniques, intellectual property, monetization, and predictive models that do not include data. You're not going to have to do math. These predictive models are built on emotional and social indicators. Begin a portfolio to implement a personal media campaign. This is the introductory overview that gives you the foundation upon which you're going to build everything else. You can't just forward anybody else's content and matter. You must design and create your own original content, and it must fit your brand message. So once you learn how to do it correctly, it'll become second nature to you. Every element of your content has a distinct personality. Your content is what speaks for you and your brand. But don't freak out. You're the one who decides what that personality is going to be. Then how can you create your own brand identity like so many who have come before you? And what's the best way for you to present your brand online? And how can anybody find you amidst so many other brands? That's a large part of the ongoing curriculum, but we start talking about it here, and it is doable. What does it mean to be popular? We will explore the phenomenon so you can help increase the appeal of your messaging and make your content more attractive, as in attracting meaningful interest and engagement. Responsibility is huge. You'll also learn about the important legal aspects you have to consider so you can avoid making personal costly mistakes that could ruin your brand or your finances. JMX902, Images, Graphics, Platforms, and Content. This course covers visual messaging in social media formats, psychological emotional impact of image elements, tools and applications to create professional quality images, and it focuses on effective content on each platform, best practices for creation and distribution of your content. This is a crucial course. What you learn here will carry through to all the other areas. Why does one image succeed when another, which may even be a better image, fails to gain traction? How do you adapt your content to different platforms? How can you tell a story in a single image? This is the gateway course that will hopefully get you hooked on everything that's going to come after. You'll learn how to turn a photograph into a work of graphic art in 5 minutes or less, and again, not have to use Photoshop unless you love it, in which case you're more than welcome to use it. These 4 items were snapshots. I made these changes in under 3 minutes. JMX 903, Journalism, Publishing, Entertainment, and E-commerce. This course covers designing and building a brand and making it marketable through digital content. Students will learn the elements that are required to take a simple idea, like Pokemon, and build it into a social phenomenon. We will do some deep dives into specific markets, and you can learn how to replicate the process. You'll also experience creating multiple formats of content that can be used to support your specific campaign. You'll learn how to create meaningful publications and market a business online. And by publications, I don't mean you're going to do a magazine or write articles, because nothing you do in this class will involve more than 100 words or less, preferably less. Lots of us use online sites to buy clothes or accessories under normal circumstances. Right now, I'm doing almost all my shopping online, even for groceries since COVID. So what are the psychological triggers that make us buy or not buy? How can you make those work for you? There is one word that will turn people away after they fill up an entire shopping cart. One little word that will make them change their mind and walk away. You'll learn that. Social media influencer. Now, most influencers focus on reaching the general public at large. They are the marketing equivalent of the girl that sleeps around. You know, you met her in college. She lived down the hall for you, or she knew your roommate. They flirt with lots of brands and a lot of markets, and they do it for money and product. It is the biggest aspirational job for teenage girls right now, which is kind of frightening on a certain level. But the bottom line is, it is that way because we all want to be heard. We want our message to get out. And I will show you how in your area you can become an influencer. Now, this girl is an influencer who is probably very Insta famous. She also likes my favorite color. Every product you see here pays her to endorse them, to put them in a picture. Sometimes they pay her money, sometimes they give her product. And all she has to do is tell people how much she loves them. Doesn't mean she does love them, but she'll say with conviction that she loves them. And then she'll get products and services and money. The more successful you are with engagement, not likes, the more money you can earn. You'll also learn how you can become a trusted source in a world and a culture right now where most people don't know who they can trust. Which leads us to JMX 904, Politics, Social Cause Marketing, and Community Building. This course covers the way convergence media can be used to move the masses to take action toward a desired goal. Microtopics include propaganda, digital town hall meetings, socially conscious platforms, polling, and interview techniques. We will explore the process of creating a social movement and learn how many times and ways it can be repeated successfully. And by a social movement, I mean everything from QAnon to the Ice Bucket Challenge. Ultimately, you will learn how he did it. We're going to do a deep dive. I've been studying this in detail for 4 years, and you're going to get to do that right after a political campaign that changed the shape of the entire world. More important, you're going to learn how you can do what he did to build your campaign, your business, your brand, or your career, but you must promise not to use it for evil purposes. Has another government infiltrated our social media to brainwash us? Is Putin the ultimate influencer of global politics? Political influencers focus on getting you to choose between their specific candidate or support their preferred cause. And it's been proven that Putin had his hands in our elections, also in Brexit. What does he have up his sleeve now that Trump has retired and moved to Florida? I will say that the thing about Russia we have to worry about right now is that since Facebook and Twitter have shut off the Trump's social pages, and they have taken a lot of the sympathizers off and shut down the algorithms, the only place that some of the folks who charge the capital can communicate is on an app called Telegram, which is owned and operated by Russia. So they are still involved with that. TED Talks, ideas worth spreading. You'll learn how to become a thought leader or an influencer. Both of those can lead to significant streams of income and or a lucrative profession. Look at this cute little boy. This is Ryan. Ryan is 9 years old. Ryan is an influencer. Ryan has earned more than 2 billion views and has 21.5 million followers on YouTube, more subscribers. Ryan also has a cartoon show on Hulu, and he made $26 million between June 2018 and June 2019. Ryan began by opening toys on his YouTube channel. Now Ryan has his own brand of licensed toys that you can buy online to make him richer. We'll explore how Ryan's parents did that and what parts of that you can replicate. JMX905, How to Make Anything Go Viral. This course covers the needs and desires that explain why people share content with friends and coworkers, including the preparation that must be done prior to the launch to enable viral transmission. A successful viral campaign is about reaching as many people in your target audience as possible. By the time we finish this class, you'll have created all the assets that are necessary to launch your first campaign. You will have learned how to make the necessary changes in your content, and you'll know how to replicate the results. Viral is your superpower. As a content creator, it doesn't happen overnight. You can trigger it and set it into process, and all the steps will be laid out for you over the 48 hours we spend together. Spray and pray. This is not a strategy. You can waste time and a huge amount of money reaching people who will never be interested in what you're trying to sell them. If you have a coffee shop in Torrance, you do not need to reach people in Michigan, even if they are likely to go buy coffee tomorrow, which is how the algorithms sell you ads. 10 million views sounds like your dream result, but if it's the wrong 10 million, you can wind up dead in the water. This, as we now know, is the coronavirus. For better or for worse, it taught us that when a virus wants to spread, there's not much you can do to stop it. In social media, when you want a virus to spread, however, there are a lot of things you can do to get it started. So I've just thrown a lot of information at you, and this is probably how it feels right now. Fear is common. Nobody wants to make a mistake in public, and social media is the most public venue of all. So what I just told you may seem overwhelming, and you're not unusually responding if it is. You can't imagine necessarily how you're going to figure it all out in just 48 hours. And the truth is, you need a roadmap and a Sherpa. And I'm going to be that Sherpa for you. Because this is how easy it's going to be at the end of this university certificate program. Social media content gets easy after you learn the process and the strategy and how to use simple tools to make your content emotionally engaging. Now, at this point, I'm going to turn it back over to Anissa. So bear with us for a second.
Okay. Excellent, Catherine. Thank you so much. That is absolutely fascinating. And I want to deep dive with you in just a few minutes about some of the questions that are going to be presented from the students. But we actually want to ask the students a quick question as well. We've got a poll that we're going to pop up real quick. We want to get a little bit of feedback from you guys. What platforms are you currently using? And what concept of social media is most important to you? We just want to get a gauge on how students are approaching these thoughts and these technologies that are made available to us. While you're actually doing the poll, if you're participating with us, please pay attention also to the screen on the side. We've got a little bit of information regarding the course delivery. So we're going to come back to Catherine in just a moment, but we want to make sure that you guys know how the courses work. So the courses are actually held on Saturdays for 6-hour sessions and can be completed in as little as 2 months. These courses are offered twice a year during our fall and spring terms. The courses are available online in an online modality using Blackboard and Zoom, and we'll talk about that in just a second. At this time, no on-campus attendance is required. Okay. Almost all of the CSUDH extended education programs are being offered in an online format, which means that students are assigned online access through our campus's IT student services. Each student will need login credentials to access our student portal called My CSUDH. This portal includes Blackboard, our learning management system, where course content is currently distributed, Toro Mail, which is our Gmail-based student email system, and the Zoom web conferencing tool, of course. These login credentials, which are basically your username, email, account, and password, are issued through our registration office approximately 2 to 3 business days after the time of your registration in your first course. Enrollment is available from our Extended Education Registration Office Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Saturday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. If you've taken a course at CSUDH in the past 2 years, you may register online using your My CSUDH account. We highly recommend that you register early to make sure that there's space in the course and to allow additional time to receive your information to access the course. Payment is due at the time of registration, and you can pay for the courses individually or for multiple courses at once. The federal WIOA, and that stands for Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, provides funding through the California EDD, that's Employment Development Department, for qualifying students who are currently either unemployed or seeking career training. For more information, email wioa@csudh.edu or visit our program website for more information. Now, if you need additional financial assistance, please Google private student loan providers or connect with sallymay.com for student loan details. Okay. Again, we highly encourage that students register at least 1 week before so that you can access your course materials, access your Toro Mail and personal emails for frequently sent notifications from the campus and special instructions, and how to access the classroom material, find your way around using the Zoom controls, the meeting schedules, discussions, and the like. If you have any difficulty accessing your campus account, please notify us via the Academic Technology Department, and they'll assist you right away. Now we'll get ready for our Q&A with our instructor. And we just want to remind you, please use that Q&A panel down below, and we'll lead off with a couple of quick questions to get us going in here. And I'm going to stop the share on our screen. And Catherine, I know that there's so many people that are just fascinated by the whole career field of social media. It is burgeoning. There are so many positions available. How do we make sense of all of these career titles that are available online? When you see something that says content manager or social media specialist or all of these different titles. What is it that differentiates these titles, and what would taking your courses provide as a foundation for the students that are trying to look at these individual roles?
Typically, a content manager is the person that manages a community for a company. So let's say Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola has a very large social media presence. So they need a number of people to be involved in handling the community, responding to people, engaging. If someone posts user-generated content, sharing that, comment, answering questions, they're the community leaders. A specialist or a director typically creates the content. And those are the interesting positions because the starting salary is pretty high for those. In Los Angeles, a first timer might get as much as $75,000 a year. And they go way into the six figures with experience as you go up the chart. I mean, basically social media goes into those two directions. You're either creating the content and or you're doing strategy, or you're managing the community hands-on. And it's a wide open field because everybody's realizing they need it. If you're working with a small company, then you may be the only social media person and you'll be doing both.
Exactly. And along those lines, I know a lot of people have an expectation about what a social media position would entail. And there's an expectation of, oh, well, I have to know all the ins and outs of Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or all of these different social platforms, which, by the way, I want to get an idea. I want to share with our attendees what their responses were, and with Catherine as well. So 91% of you are using Instagram. That's incredible. 65% are using YouTube. 61% are using Facebook. 39% are using Twitter. These, and TikTok is coming up, 52%. So these are, of course, what we think of in terms of using the tools. These are the tools that are the go-to. But what is it behind those tools that makes social media so prominent? Why is that so important to have this foundation that you're setting for us?
Everything about social media is based on emotion. This is not something you can do objectively. This is not a field for mathematicians. There is nothing empirical about social media. It is about how do I make you feel something so I can convey a message. It involves empathy. It involves affinities. We look at demographics and psychographics. Demographics are what you're born with. I am a middle-aged white woman. I'm not going to be able to change that until I become an old white woman. However, I'm involved in technology. I do social media. I make jewelry, none of which I'm wearing right now. I obviously am in an office full of books. I'm a writer as well. So those are my affinities. When you want to appeal to me, you may want to appeal to women who are writers, but it's going to be the writer element that brings you in because that's where my emotion is. Being a woman is what I am. I can't change that. And so it is about emotional engagement. It is about basically learning how to touch me at a point where I'm going to care. I always look at two responses. As we're sitting there scrolling for our phones going, yeah, 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 yeah. And then you're going to the point where you want somebody to go, huh, and go back and take a deeper look. It's that emotion of, huh, oh, you want that response. And it's almost involuntary at a point. And so you have to learn how to do it like that or faster.
Right.
And you can do it.
Marie asks an interesting question, and it's kind of related to what you're just saying. She says, is this theory-based only, or will we be able to apply strategies on our social media platforms?
Absolutely, you can apply anything you're doing onto your social media platforms. I'm going to be teaching you content creation, which starts with the strategy of how do you structure a message? How do you create a brand? Because even one of my students came into the class and said she wanted to sell pots. And I went, okay. And I started looking around and we used the model of the woman who was on TV all the time selling a single pot for $149. And she's selling it on TV and it's sold out. And one of my kids told me he just bought it. So you can go from, I just want to sell pots to becoming the queen of pots. You can go from saying, I sell pantyhose, to becoming the investor of Spanx. All of that happens in social media.
Right, right. When they're in the class, when they're taking the class with you, what is the type of work that's being involved? So we've talked about applying those strategies, but what does the work actually look like? Is there homework? Are there textbooks? What is the classroom environment like?
There are recommended readings because there's no test. There's no name the 4 types of, we're going to go through this. You're all adults. There is lecture, there is interaction, there is always interaction. And I mean, let's face it, now you're in my home office. So I'm going to treat you kind of like you're a guest in my home office, and you're going to treat me like I'm a guest in your kitchen or wherever else I'm sitting. And so it lacks the formality of that. And I have grown really fond of that because we're talking. It's not, I'm the authority and you are the students. I want to treat you like a colleague because you're an adult and you have goals and you're trying to start a business or maintain a business, or you want to get a job doing that. We will be creating. I'll be walking you through step by step. When I said I have 400 apps, I have over 400 apps in my iPhone. And I'm going to show you how, instead of using Photoshop, you can take 3 apps and in 5 minutes or less get the same effect that Photoshop would take you 20 minutes. Absolutely. And I'm not knocking Photoshop, it's great. But I do know that every time I've talked to somebody about it, they say, no matter what you do, you can never learn everything about Photoshop, which to me says, okay, let's find an alternative I can learn everything about. So we'll be doing assignments. You will be taking stuff home to do. I will give you a recommended reading list. If I talk about a book that's not on the recommended reading list, which is on the syllabus, I'll show you what it is and tell you why I think it's interesting. And if you want to read it, that's your choice. I have in the past had 2 librarians in my classes, and they read everything, and then they come to me and say, but did you see this? So I'm also totally open to you showing the class something you've discovered. I really like in the classroom, it usually breaks into groups of people working together. And one of the things that I was especially thrilled by, this was about 2.5 years ago, the class decided that they didn't want to just meet on Saturday. So in between 2 nights a week, they met at a coffee shop and worked together. And that was fabulous because part of this is learning about how you work in groups. And so assignments and reading and lecture and conversation. I want to hear what you think about things. When I'm explaining to you why something is going on in a specific market, I want to hear your input and I will solicit it. I will say, what about this piece of content are you responding to or not responding to right now? And we will discuss.
So along those lines, I think it's really interesting that you said you want to hear the conversations, what people are thinking, and that's what drives social media. Robert Torres is on our Facebook page right now, and he says he's using Clubhouse, he's using TikTok, he's using MeWe and Instagram. And it's so funny to think that there's platforms that didn't exist a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. How are we able to keep engaged with all of these different platforms and still have this foundation that works across anything? What is your approach to these new technologies that are coming up?
Okay, everything I do is designed around a multi-platform universe because you can't just say, well, I'm only going to be on this or I'm only going to be on that. Instagram is a magazine. Facebook is a place where people post stuff and solicit comments. Twitter is like the New York Stock Exchange ticking out the constant prices. The half-life of a tweet is 8 seconds. So if someone's not watching you, it's really far-fetched that they're going to come and find you because there are thousands and hundreds of thousands of people talking about the same thing at any given time. So we'll talk about how one piece of content adapts. You're not going to take the same content you put on Instagram and put it on Facebook and put it on Twitter and put it on TikTok. You're going to do different things. There's a huge difference between TikTok and YouTube. And if you look at my Instagram, all of my social media is under Catherine Clinch, and I'm the easiest person to find online. If you look at my Instagram, the purpose of that was to show clients and potential clients, I'm at YouTube all the time. I've been accused of being an unidentified sponsor. I'm like, no, they don't pay me. They invite me to events. I go, we talk. I can pick up the phone and get an answer to any question about that. And it is that kind of experience that you have to create for you. What do you need that platform to do for you? So we will look at how something that's on YouTube has to be completely different from something that's on TikTok. And then how do you take that and adapt it as stills or as standalone content for Twitter? I use Twitter as, all right, I'm putting it on these other things, I'll throw it on Twitter too. So.
Okay. And we have a new question from an anonymous attendee that says, I'm not skilled or experienced in any of these social media platforms. Do I need a more elementary place to begin, or what's the best approach to this?
Last semester, I had a student who was in her late 70s, and she was retired and looking for something to do that would interest her. And she said, I don't know anything about this. I'd like to find out more. And I said, great. All of the platforms give you information on how to sign up. So you go home and sign up for every one of the platforms we're going to talk about. I gave her a list. And the rest of it is just play. Find somebody who's your neighbor or your grandchildren or whatever, but just play. I will tell you that by the end of the semester, she was turning in some of the best work. I want to make this user-friendly. My goal is that you succeed. I am never going to be the person that says, no, this is too hard, you're not good at it. I'm the person that, and maybe it's because I'm a mom, what does everybody need to know? You need a little more work, let's do it. And I make myself available. If you need to talk to me, you can send me an email. If you need time after class, we'll stick around and do it, because I want to make sure this is an excellent experience for you. But you have to be willing to do the work. I mean, truthfully, you have to put time in.
Right. And that actually kind of answers Booker's question. He asks, how do students get support, guidance, and constructive criticism being online, working with you? I know you mentioned a student that didn't have social media experience before, but everybody has their own tastes and they know what they like and what draws them. And those people that are feeding to their particular audience, they know what that audience likes. They're not really necessarily addressing other people, like the whole world. You don't have to say I'm meeting the needs of the entire world, right? So how do you approach giving guidance to your students in refining their target audience and getting that constructive criticism to them?
First of all, the only thing I believe in is constructive criticism. I really cannot stand when people are negative or belittling. If you didn't get it, let's try it again. Let's figure out what about it is the barrier for you, and we'll walk through it. Because sometimes it's involving using a different tool. Sometimes it's figuring out where the stumbling block is for you and figuring out why it's a stumbling block. And again, my goal is that this be a great experience for you. I will meet with you after class. Sometimes when we take our lunch break, there's 2 hours in between. And that gives me time to talk to you after class and sometimes say, okay, while you're having your lunch, after you finish vacuuming, walk the dog. We'll come back earlier and you show me what you've done and we'll talk about it again. Okay, so I find this is as effective and maybe more effective than I would say, okay, everybody come in, bring a magnet, stick your stuff up on the board, let's talk about it. And the goal is that I'm here for you. I don't know how to say this tactfully. I don't get paid 6 figures to be here. I'm here because I like helping people learn this. I love this. I think it's important that people know how to use it wisely. And if I'm going to do something with my time, percentage-wise, this is a really valuable thing for me to be doing. I want to be your cheerleader. I want to help you find out what it is. And sometimes it means I have to learn about areas. I had one student come in who I had met when I was speaking at a Hollywood event, and she said, I want to take your program. I'm a filmmaker. I said, great, what's your genre? She said, non-binary. I said, what's that? This was a couple of years ago. And she told me, and I went, all right, let's do it. Let's figure it out. And I've had other students come in and They start out wanting to do one thing and wind up doing something else because they discover something about themselves in the process of this. This is really a fun program. I mean, I enjoy teaching it. And every single time I teach it, a lot of it changes. A year ago, we didn't have TikTok. We had musical.ly. And it was okay. It was there. People were using it, but it wasn't a big thing. The Chinese bought it, a Chinese company, and changed it into TikTok. And suddenly it exploded and it went international. And now one of the best things out of that's helped with the COVID, I think, is when it gives young doctors and nurses a chance to do dance numbers in the hall and post them. I mean, that was just so moving when I started watching this and seeing older people expressing themselves by lip syncing songs and watching kids lip sync songs. I mean, it's a great platform and it's there and it's always about emotion. If you learn nothing else, if you don't come back, just understand everything that makes anything work in this world is emotion. The minute you shut off emotion, you're dead in the water.
Right, right. We've got time for 2 more questions. I've got a really great question from Jesse, who says, if you're a little bit more advanced in social media and already work as a marketing manager, is there still a lot to learn? I want to always be increasing my knowledge, and I want to make sure that this course is for me.
I've had marketing executives in my class. I've had marketing professors from other universities. I had the head of public affairs for one of the major utilities. So everybody in this works to their level. And so it's not going to bog you down with me saying, okay, here's the button you push to post something on Facebook. I tell you where the tutorials are. It's on you to learn if you don't know it. If you've been using it and you're a master at it, that's great. Let's take you to the next level. The lectures are about things that you probably haven't done before. And when I'm looking at the different things that are going on, when I say you'll learn how Trump did what he did, I have immersed and done a super deep dive in that for the past 4 years. And part of that was motivated by the fact that in the 1970s, I was his neighbor right down 57th Street. So it's like, how did this happen? And so no, it's not going to be too slow for you. And because of the expanse of social media, every 3-hour block winds up having over 150 slides. Now, you've seen a little bit about how I work through slides. Very rarely do I put up slides that have a lot of words. Usually it's an image and we're looking at it because that's what we're trying to do. Or it's introducing you to a new concept and showing you the steps of the concept. And then I'll pop onto my iPad Pro with a different camera or a different share screen, and I'll walk you through how I'm using an app to do something. And then we'll talk about how something that happened in society, like when we were just loading up here, I got the messages because I have constant feeds from different ad agencies. And it said, Heinz just asked people to draw ketchup, see what happened. And I was like, no, I can't look yet because we have this presentation to do. But that's what I do. And I'm a writer and I'm totally immersed in that. So I'm looking at how is Hollywood selling you stuff? How is the music industry selling you stuff? In the last class, I had 2 students involved in the music industry. One was an indie artist, and one was in head of artist relations and social media for a record label in Mexico City. So I was working at 2 different levels, and it worked beautifully.
Okay. All right. So we got 2. I had 2 before. We have 1 additional. So I'm going to keep these questions pretty short.
Okay.
An anonymous attendee asks, will we be able to start with a brand idea and walk through our own brands? Or are we working on a pre-existing mock brand as an example?
This is all about you. Whatever you want to do. I am not the teacher that says, okay, here's an esoteric assignment, or here's something I want you to work on so it benefits me in a research thing. None of that. You come in, you want to do movies, let's work on your brand there. You want to do books, we'll work on that. You want to do pots, you want to do anything else. It is all about you. And all of the assignments will be you creating content for your brand or your product or your service.
Okay. And this last question, I think this brings up a really critical point. We're in an age of inclusion and diversity and making sure that content is accessible to all. So this anonymous attendee says, I work for a nonprofit that focuses on helping homeless, veterans, and returning citizens. Is it considered inconsiderate to use social media as a form of marketing? How would we address that?
2 classes ago, I had a student who works for a nonprofit organization that takes care of inner city kids. It's not a school, it's not for the homeless, but it was for underserved inner city kids. And we worked on how she could use those kids objectively to tell their stories, to have pictures that did not in any way identify them, because you're looking at over a child's shoulder. You are looking at children in the distance playing, and there's words over it. There are so many ways. Also, just so you know something about me, I have done more community service than any 5 people you're going to meet, and none of it was court ordered. I am on 6 committees at the Writers Guild. I'm a former member of the board of directors. I'm on the Committee of Women Writers. I'm on the Career Longevity Committee, AKA the Senior Citizens Activity Center, and I'm on the Inclusion and Equity Group, which is a board-appointed committee. We are just going out with an anti-racism statement. And so this is in my DNA. This is what I do. And so we're going to find ways to work with what you need to do so that you can get results. I mean, I put out a meme a while ago of a homeless man and a dog, and it posed the question, how many of you will stop to take care of the dog and not the man? Because that's one of the horrible things in society. We have all of these, please rescue, save the animal. I love animals, but we don't have that about the homeless anymore. So we can talk about the many ways you can do this, and I would love to work on that with you.
This is excellent information. Catherine, I want to thank you for all of the time and the detail that you put into presenting your information. And I know that you're going to get a ton of students because this information is absolutely foundational. So thank you again for sharing with us. And just to wrap up the program information, I'm going to share how you can get in touch with us to take the next steps. So at this point, we've covered a great deal of information regarding the program, but just in case you missed any details, you can please give us a call at area code 310-243-2075 when you're ready to take your next steps and register. You can give our registration office a call at area code 310-243-3741 and click option 1. If you have any questions that you would like to email, you can email learn@csudh.edu. And remember that if you are a previous CSUDH student, you can register through the My CSUDH portal at any time when you're ready to go. We'd love to get a little bit of feedback regarding how our session went today. Please feel free to give us your commentary and let us know how we did by visiting our webinar feedback at bit.ly/CSUDH-webinar-feedback. And with that, that concludes our social media strategies and content marketing program information session. And we want to thank you for joining us today. Again, feel free to connect with us on our website, via our social media or our Facebook page. And remember to register early to get your spot in your preferred class. And we will see you in class. Once again, we thank you for joining us. Stay safe, and we look forward to working with you. Thank you again. See you soon. Thank you, Catherine.
Bye.